As a web designer, you'll more than likely have opportunities to present logo design concepts and work with your people at your company, or perhaps just yourself, in coming up with some kind of branding or corporate identity. Hi, my name is Matt, and in this screencast we're just going to toss around some ideas and see what we can come up for a logo. Alright, now here I'm in Photoshop, and I'm just going to start out by laying down some text. Here I have this Avenir light standard font, and I have it set to 24 point, but my canvas is pretty decent size. Regardless, we can always resize that. I'm just going to go ahead and type in some text, my design concept, and perhaps maybe a little slogan down below that. Logo, design, consultation, and development. Okay. Now, once we have that down, I'm going to take my little move tool and do a transform. Control T on my keyboard, and then just Shift and Alt while I resize up. That'll just get me the size that I need to work. Okay. Now, what I do want to make sure is that my text here, with all my text highlighted, I take my character properties panel and I make sure that my vertical line spacing here is set to auto. Okay, and so that'll make it a little bit better as far as that goes. Okay, then usually for slogans down here like this, we might just bring this down to a smaller, you know, maybe a smaller font size, kind of like that. Alright, so that doesn't look too bad. Now let's try to add an object in there. For right now, let's just add a sphere, and we can draw a sphere by just taking maybe a elliptical tool, and then let's see if we can simulate kind of like a spherical effect. Okay, I'm gonna make this, let's do C. Okay. Now what I might do in the blending options, I'll come to blending options and then just do an inner shadow. Okay, I might set the distance to 0 and make the size bigger. So right there as it is, it's beginning to look like, take on the form of a sphere almost. So that looks pretty good. What we can do to even highlight it further is actually change the color to white. Okay, or maybe something even just a little lighter. Okay, so that looks pretty good as it is. Now, to give it kind of a 3D effect, a couple things that we can do. First, let's duplicate this layer. Before I do that, I'm going to rename this to sphere. I'm going to duplicate this layer and name it sphere shadow. I'm going to bring that down below my sphere layer. Okay, and then I'm going to just clear the style from that sphere. So this is the sphere shadow layer, and then what I'm going to do is change the color to a dark gray. 33333 should be good enough. Okay, and then from here I'm going to take my filter menu, go down to blur and Gaussian blur, and we're going to create a blurred shadow. Okay, so if you get this message, it has to be rasterized. Go ahead and rasterize it. That's fine. And then here we're just going to play around with a little, you know, some possible blur sizes here. 15 pixels looks like it should be okay. And now what I'm going to do is transform, Control T on my keyboard, and bring this down, resize it so that it's kind of like this flat yet oblong kind of size. So just like that, then bring it under. Alright, that looks pretty cool. One other thing I like to do is add a little bit of a shine to it. Okay, so what we can do is taking in our layers panel, let's go and create a new layer above the sphere layer. We're going to name this shine, and I'm going to show you here real quick. What I'll do is I'll start out with a black shape, just so that we can get the shape down, and then we'll look at changing up the color. So for right now, just draw kind of like a rectangle like this, you know, something there, and then we're going to manipulate this a little bit. First thing we'll do is we'll take our we'll go ahead and take our transform. So with that layer selected, do Control T, and then pressing and holding Control on my keyboard, I'm going to take that corner. You see how the cursor changes from this solid black arrow to this kind of like this spotted gray arrow there. Now that means that I can begin changing the perspective of this shape. Okay, and so let's kind of tinker with this a little bit. I'm going to bring this in here like that. Maybe bring this over here like this. Something kind of like that. Okay, and hit enter. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is a little bit jagged, so let's try this one more time. Maybe just something like that. It should be sufficient. Okay. Now I'm going to bring that over here and then rotate it. Control T, rotate. Okay. Then here I can, once I have that kind of in this position, then take my transform path and warp, and then we can begin warping this around the way it probably would if it was on a ball. Okay. Alright, so something like that. We'll hit enter. Okay, so that looks okay. I'm just basically at this point trying out different sizing and some reshaping techniques here. So just play with that a little bit, see what you can come up with. Maybe rotate this just a little bit. Okay, once we have that in place, what I'm going to do is then change this color by double clicking on that color thumbnail and then setting this to white. Okay, now there's an inner shadow layer being applied, style being applied, so I'm going to just right click on my shine layer and then clear the layer style. Okay, so we have that white. Then what I might do are a couple things. I might try to flip through the blending modes, or I can just simply bring this down to maybe 80% opacity. Okay, and so that's kind of what that looks like. Now, of course, we didn't spend too much time on this, but for what little time we did spend on it, it looks pretty good. Okay, so something to that effect, maybe not. I'll just try one more warp and see what we can do here. Okay, so that looks okay. So looks a little bit 3D-ish. I'll go ahead and highlight these layers. Now what I like to do before I get too far is organize my layers into groups. So this is just going to be sphere, and take our 3 layers here and move that into the sphere, and that also gives me the added benefit of being able to duplicate that group and have 2 spheres to manipulate. Okay, alright, so here is my logo design concept. Alright, maybe something in the center. We can center our text and take our sphere and put that up here. Okay, and that looks pretty good. You can submit it as is, or we can crop it and then see where we're at with it. Okay. Alright, well, I hope that's given you some ideas on how to put together something like this. You can always use these same techniques that we did in creating this shine on other objects and making it look, kind of have that wet look to it. Alright, so that wraps up this screencast. My name is Matt, and thanks for watching.